Hello there. Julian Richings here. You're listening to Don't Go Out There. Enjoy.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie
Welcome back,
Podcast.
everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. We really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. My man Brian has done a fantastic job with the website. He's got it looking great. Everything about our podcast is on there. All of our episodes and interviews from episode 1 to our weekly release. If you want to check out all of our episodes there, maybe you have an office job, don't have access to your phone, you can listen on your desktop computer. We've done some incredible interviews in the past with some of the biggest names in horror, some of your favorite slashers, writers, directors. Check out our interviews if you haven't heard those yet. We got our store. We got some new T-shirts. Brian and Dustin have done some fantastic designs if you want to check those out. And we also have Shan's Etsy page attached as well if you want to grab a tumbler. And we also have our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We love interacting with our fans. We love, meeting new people. We love answering your comments and questions on the air. So definitely check us out on social media. And the last thing I want to shout out is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. You're a big fan of our podcast, a big fan of our show. You want to help support us. That option is available. And we also have one-time donations. If you want to donate and, if you have a film review you want us to do, that option is available as well. All right, guys, let's jump into the film review. We're going to be concluding Dustin's Feel My Pain. I had to see it, so you had to see it month. And this is the reason why he even picked the damn theme. So, brother, why don't you tell us why you picked this one?
Yeah.
Because you hate us.
I've said it, a few times this month, but I had Regal Unlimited, so I was going to see basically every movie that released in the theaters when it came out. And I saw Beau is Afraid. I saw, there was A24. I was like, yeah, let's go check it out. I know it's Ari Aster. I know it's going to be a little bit out there, but I got 3 hours to kill. Let's just go do it. And then I sat through the movie, and I sat in my chair for several minutes after the end credits started rolling. And I was like, what the fuck was that? That's when I walked out of the theater. That was the first thing I said was, what the fuck was that? And so I knew that you guys would never watch this if I just said, hey, you guys got to watch this movie. You'd all say, oh, yeah, I'll watch it, and then never do it. Actually, Brian wouldn't. He'd be up front. He would say, fuck A24, I'm not doing it. So
I would watch it.
Yeah, you would have, but I don't know that you would have necessarily prioritized it because of how bizarre I made it sound.
How long it is.
Because I think when I sent you guys a text, I said, if we ever review this movie, my prediction for the score was, and I don't remember, I said you said it was something low, but I said Brian would be like a -17 or something like that. But
brother, if you had told me there was a giant dick in it, I would have watched it. Oh, my bad.
That is true. So I that made me think of, this theme. We take turns picking themes for months. So I was like, we got a rule in the group chat. If someone sees something disturbing or disgusting, we share it, because if I had to see it, you have to see it. So yeah, feel my pain. Watch this movie with me, fuckers.
All right, I'll go with my opening thoughts now. It's a bizarre movie. There's nothing else that I've seen like it, and I like that. I think everyone who listens to this show and all the co-hosts know that I'm the biggest A24 fan. This definitely is my least favorite of Ari Aster's films, but I still think it's interesting. It's really well made, well acted, makes you think, and I appreciate that. But it's got a lot of symbolism, metaphors, blah, blah, blah. But it really has my brain hurting trying to figure it all out, which can be a bad thing. But I do we like junk food movies, but I also like movies that make me think and make me feel things. And I like this movie for what it is. It's not one that I'm going to pop in anytime soon. I will watch it again in the future just because, on subsequent rewatches, you do pick up on other things. And, read, like when we did the platform, I like reading through people's comments, how they interpret things. And I enjoyed it for what it is. And Brian looks like he's ready to kill me. So I'll look at Brian. Go next.
Just the look on Brian's face is great.
Typical A24 fan.
Yeah.
Look, I was speechless first time I watched this, and I know that I've gotten a bit of a reputation for being an A24 hater. And while, yes, the very heavy majority we've done on the show I have not liked, I do give each of them a fighting chance. But after watching this 3-hour A24 mind fuck fest, I've come to the conclusion that I really do think that the A24 meetings to approve movies that they make literally last 35 seconds. It's got to be. I don't think they give a shit about the script or literally anything. They probably just ask, does it make sense? No? Oh, okay, good. Is it weird as fuck? Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Let's do it. I don't have to have anything that makes sense or substance. No, not at all. We can just call it elevated horror. We can just call it elevated horror, and then people will just act like it makes sense so they can feel better about themselves. I'm convinced that's how it has to go. It has to. Because once again, I'm saying, in summary of an A24 movie, what the fuck did I just watch? And I think that accomplishes what Dustin was set out to do there. I feel like I'm a broken record because I've got to say it is engaging. I agree. I mean, I was curious the whole time thinking, okay, how is this going to pay off? At the end, they'll bring it all together and it'll make sense. And shocker, they don't. But it's not even like Ari's other movies, I'm not a fan of. This is just like, it's just like, what the fuck, man? Look, I know this movie is up for interpretation. And, therefore, I think that you're seeing this whole entire world from the point of a schizophrenic or neurotic disorder or whatever he has. And it's just, wow. Like, it's everywhere, and it has a conclusion that not only to me makes it worse, it makes even less sense, and then you have that coupled with a ridiculously too long 3-hour runtime. It's more than just like a non-pleasurable viewing experience for me. To me, it's a waste of 3 hours of my life. All I think you can really say about this movie is how it makes you feel and how obviously that you interpret things. And for me, I hate it.
Well, before you go, Mike, since this is the last movie of the theme, I'll just go ahead and reveal something. This theme is actually not Feel My Pain. This theme for this month is just basically Middle Finger Brian. That's actually what I wanted to call it.
I completely I gathered that as soon as everybody picked the movies.
Oh, geez. Okay. Look, surprise, surprise. Mike is somewhere in the middle here. Because I actually think there's a lot to like about this movie. This movie's fucking wild, man. This is one of the, I'm not even going to say one of, this is the weirdest film I've ever seen. This is a crazy fucking movie from the mind of Ari Aster. And I thought I had seen the craziest parts of Ari Aster's mind. Nay, on that. Because this movie is the craziest shit I've seen. I will say it is my least favorite of the Ari Aster movies that we've done, just because I don't think it ties, like Brian mentioned, it doesn't tie together by the end. Like Hereditary, by the end, it makes sense. Midsommar, as weird as it fucking gets, by the end of the film, it makes sense. I still don't know. There's still parts of this film, I still don't know what the fuck has happened. I don't know what's going on. What's real? What's not real? And I'm yelling. That's my typical talking voice. Get the fuck over it. But look, it's well acted. I think Joaquin Phoenix is fucking awesome. Honestly, I think everyone involved is awesome. Nathan Lane is good. Like, there's some really good acting in here. The movie is well made. No surprise. A24 does a great job with that, with those kinds of things. And like Nico touched on, I like the fact that it makes me think, makes me feel, touches on some, deeper emotional stuff, thematic elements, fear, guilt, all that other stuff that we're going to get into. But this is the first time that I've not been able to tie it all together and have it make sense for me. It feels like just a really long, way too long of just like Ari Aster's drug trip. Like, I can't get past the fact that half the movie, I don't know what's happening. So maybe it's too far. Maybe it's too smart for me, because I was about to say I'm not going to sniff my own farts like some of these people that think they got it all figured out when the movie is open-ended and left to interpretation. But I do think, I said it in the group chat earlier, I am glad there's a space for this film to exist. There's a studio that will let filmmakers make this kind of movie, because I think that's important. And I will never hate on someone else's art. I just don't fucking know what happened in this movie, man. Like, I don't understand the film, but I'm engaged, I'm intrigued, and I still think it's well made. So overall, as usual, Mike is somewhere in the goddamn middle. Middle Mike, what's up? See, that should be replaced. See, that should replace Money Mike because I'm broke, and so we need to get on the middle Mike thing. There we go.
Middle money Mike.
God damn it. Mileage Mike, at least. Figure it out.
Middle mileage money Mike.
Fuck you, man.
All right, guys, jump into the scene by scene. Brother Dustin graciously decided to do the scene by scene because he knew this would be one of the most impossible movies to take notes on for scene breakdown. Selfish bastard. Go ahead, brother, with the scene by scene.
That's exactly why I did it. I know when I volunteered, you're like, yeah, go for it. Go ahead. But then once you started trying to take notes, you were probably like, that motherfucker.
Yeah, this movie was difficult to take notes on.
All right. Well, it's a long movie, so I'm going to be reading a lot. Bear with me. The movie opens with an ominous score. Honestly, it's the most horror-feeling thing about the whole movie to me. We hear a muffled sound of a woman in distress. We get flashes of light and sounds of the woman screaming. We see a slit opening and, yep, we're in a vagina. It's childbirth from the baby's perspective. We hear the woman say the baby hit the ground and asks, is the baby crying? Is he dead? We hear a man trying to console her and see a manual resuscitator being used before we see a baby's ass being smacked, hear the baby cry, and get our title card. Beau is afraid. Next, we see a gray-haired man walk into a doctor's office and sit down. It's Beau. He's silent until he says he accidentally drank mouthwash recently. The man tells him it should be fine. A cell phone rings, and they both look at it until it stops ringing. It's Beau's mom calling. Beau says he's going to see his mom tomorrow on the anniversary of his father's death. He has a voicemail and tries to avoid answering the question about how he feels about going home. It's been several months since he's been home. The doctor asks if he feels guilty about that and gets no response. He writes guilty on his notepad. The doctor asks if Beau wishes his mother was dead. Beau is perplexed and says, of course not. The doctor asks how the medicine is working, and Beau groans, so he gets a prescription for a new medicine. Always with water. Outside, Beau listens to the voicemail from his mom. She's excited to see him. He stops at a trinket vendor stand, and as he asks to see one, he notices a crowd looking up at a building where a man is being encouraged to jump. Cut to nighttime, and we see a corpse lying in the middle of the street, and a taxi just drives around it. This is a wild-ass town. We see a crack whore leading a man by the hand down the street and a cop walking barefooted. It's a bustling cesspool. More vagabonds wander about, and we see a very tatted-up guy focus on a man running towards him. Turns out it's Beau. He hauls ass inside a building and locks the tattooed antagonist outside. The inside of this building is riddled with graffiti, and it's not the kind of place I'd choose to lay my head, but it's Beau's apartment building. There's a warning sign on the door of a dangerous spider, which we see later is crawling across his apartment floor. Beau's freezer is full of frozen dinners. After enjoying one, he sits on the bed a while and watches some TV. The news shows the story of a birthday boy stab man who has claimed more victims. The news says to hell with the FCC, we're not blurring his wiener. Look at it. Beau writes on the bottom of the knickknack that he bought for his mom. Dear Mom, I'm sorry this is the anniversary of Dad's death. Thank you. I'm sorry. Love, Beau. Some real Shakespearean shit there. When his pen stops working, he reaches in his nightstand drawer to grab another one and sees some Polaroids from a cruise. He gets lost in the moment, and we hear ocean sounds. 11:42 now, and Beau is turning in for the night. We hear the noises from his neighborhood, and at 1:05 a.m., we hear a knock at the door. He gets up to see a note being pushed under his door. Hello, could you please lower the volume of your music? 2:43 a.m., and another note. Please, people are being deprived of precious sleeping hours. 3:19 a.m., and there's now banging on his walls. Please help, please. The banging and yelling stops and turns to footsteps leading to Beau's door. Another note. This one slid all the way to his bed reads, I ask you to turn it down and you turn it up? He's confused. There hasn't been music playing at all. The neighbor says, how about this? And it starts blasting dance music. Beau covers his ears and goes back to sleep. He finally wakes back up, and it's daylight now. His alarm has been going off, but he didn't hear it because of the loud music. It's 3:53 p.m. His flight leaves at 5:25. He panics. He scrambles to get ready to leave and grabs his bag, his gift for his mom, and his ticket. He runs back inside because he forgot his floss. I think that's what he grabbed. But when he gets back to his door, his luggage is gone and his keys are missing from his front door. He asks the maintenance guy, but his response is, you're fucked, and keeps walking. Beau calls his landlord to tell her he needs a locksmith, but gets hung up on. Beau calls his mom now and tells her the bad news. It's a truly deranged way that he says it, too. She panics because his flight's in an hour. After a long silence, she says she understands. She says, we'll just do the visit another time. She thinks it's an excuse. I don't know how this man manages to live on his own, honestly. He asks his mommy what to do now. She says she's sure he'll do the right thing. He doesn't know, and she's got to go. She's very clearly devastated. We hear gunshots outside and screams. Beau nervously looks at the front door. He has a vision of a man kicking in his door, so he slides the couch in front of it and takes some medicine. But his water's not working in his apartment. This causes more panic from him. He tries to make himself throw up, but to no avail. He sees water at the store across the street out his window, but also sees a man gouging another man's eyes out in the path. He hears the doctor's words echoing in his head, always with water. He Googles what will happen if he takes it without water and decides to head out. That's the first scene, guys. What do you think?
Look, right off the bat, I'll preface this by saying that if you listened to last week's Human Centipede review, I made sure to say that I thought that it was shot terribly. So I definitely do not say this about every movie, but like Astor's other movies, this one is shot beautifully. I mean, there are some amazing shots in this throughout. I'm sure 99% of it is Astor, but I wanted to shout out Paul Pogorzelski, the cinematographer on this one as well, who actually has been with Ari throughout all of his 3 movies so far, so that makes sense. But there are some goddamn beautiful shots in this movie. There's no question about that. And I'll probably repeat this throughout, but I'm definitely intrigued by this open. It's laying, and giving you some pieces of the story here. But also you're looking at all of these like super extreme things after the therapist session. So this is where you start thinking like, okay, is this that trope of the unreliable narrator? Like how much of this, as I like to think, is seeing it through the point of view of Beau? So I feel like enormous chunks of this are hallucinations. And is that right? Are they? I don't fucking know. And I don't pretend to, but that's how I have to play the story out in my head for it to make any sort of logical sense to me personally. And the last thing I'll say is, I've read online that people think that the medicine is the reason the movie is the way it is. But I personally don't tend to agree with that, just because like if taking this medicine made Beau so incredibly different than the way he lives his everyday life or sees the world every single day, wouldn't he immediately stop taking it? Because I mean, like he's walking through the city before this medicine has even had a chance to kick in, and it's crazy outside. So in my opinion, I don't really go with that, but it is what it is. And you can definitely see how Beau has this idea of a mother just by the way that he sees moms interacting with their kids in the city. I mean, they're always just mean as hell and demasculating, which is another word that I'll say about 3 or 4 more times throughout. But the mother thing is definitely something that also plays out throughout this entire 3-hour mind fuck. I mean, he's very obviously scared to death of the world, as we find out, obviously later, we find out later why, but I'm intrigued for sure after this set of scenes. And, that's a feeling that doesn't leave me the first time I watch this until the end of the movie.
Look, it has me intrigued as well. I would say this is a unique open, not very many movies open from a birth to the baby's perspective, but then I remember Look Who's Talking, Look Who's Talking Too. So it's not totally unique, at least. This is a little bit different for sure. But no, I think it's a very creative open. It's dark, just a little bit of light let in. So it's even more like, it's a little more graphic, obviously, if you use your imagination. But yeah, I mean, I will say just right off the bat, the first visual you get of Joaquin Phoenix, he just does a great job of being a method actor, man. Like, just really dives into those characters that he plays. He became Johnny Cash. He became the Joker. He became Napoleon. And this doesn't hardly even look like Joaquin Phoenix to me. So different from other movies I've seen him in recently. He just does a great job of becoming this Beau character that we get to know along the way, or at least I think we do. The therapist points out about the water in the well again. Obviously, water is a thematic plot point throughout the rest of the film. There's something going on with water. I haven't quite figured it out, but water is definitely a big part of this film multiple times, which I found pretty interesting. I just can't quite pinpoint exactly what its point is, but that's okay. Look, there's definitely a point being made here by filming a suicide jumper. I honestly think that's part of the point of the whole film, how we're all kind of like stuck to our phones. Like there's some thematic elements there too. But first of all, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. I am not letting my neighbor make that much fucking noise. I'm opening the door. I'm walking over and I'm beating a motherfucker's ass. However, like Brian said, not hallucinations, but I do think Beau's sensibilities are warped. So I think everything is heightened. Like there may be a minor inconvenience to a normal person, but because of his lack of critical thinking skills, for lack of a better term, because of all the way he was raised, I think he's always Beau is afraid. Literally, he's afraid, and so I think that sense is heightened. And because of that, every minor thing feels like a giant thing. Like that neighbor probably barely had his music up, but he heard it like it was on, me talking on a regular day, which is very, very loud. So like, I understand that. And I think that's the way I view every interaction as we go forward. I think I finally at least got that part down where it's like not hallucinating, but his worldview is just so I view it like Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like it really is a human version of that show, in my opinion, where this is a normal thing, but Courage the Cowardly Dog sees it through this scared perspective. And I think that's the way that Beau views the world. Like even going to buy a water at the convenience store, it looked like he was about to set foot into a zombie apocalypse. Like, I don't think that's a hallucination. I think that's just his heightened sense of fear. But yeah, man. Anyway, one thing that really pissed me off about Beau as a character is he went back for some dental floss, that he was going to be late for his flight, and he was out the door and then went back for some dental floss. No, man. Goodbye dental floss when you get there. Get your ass out the door. But anyway, I will say, because while watching it, you don't know in the beginning what the relationship with his mom is yet. So this is a really emotional scene when he's on the phone with his mom. Like you're almost kind of mad at Beau and want him to, to use Nico's favorite meme, be a man. Like, hey man, fuck all that. Figure it out. Go see your mom. Things do play out in a little bit of a different way, but at least you're watching through and taking notes. You're like, man, what is your problem here? Last thing I really have is living in a giant city feels like a fucking nightmare, man. No, thank you. I want to live nowhere near a giant metropolitan area. And again, Beau is more, I'm sure the city's bad, but the volume is turned up because of the way Beau sees everything. So it's a little bit even worse than it would normally be, but still, no thank you on all that. Also, I can't dry take any medicine. Not at all. Like, I can't dry swallow Tylenol, none of that shit. Give me some water. I wouldn't even attempt it.
Same. That was the most psychotic thing he did all movie.
I agree. I'm like, brother, you get the water first, then you take the pill. Come on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Our fun fact to start this off, Beau is Afraid was meant to be Ari Aster's directorial debut. I got to say it was a good call going with Hereditary and Midsommar first. This movie being your debut may have tanked him. He may have never got the opportunity to make those other two films. Mike's going to talk about the budget, but this movie lost a lot of money. I don't want that to come across badly because I do think Ari Aster is, a good director, but this would not have been a good first choice. Disclaimer, like I mentioned earlier, this movie was incredibly hard to take notes on. I asked a lot of questions, so bear with me. But I thought the birth scene right into the therapist's office was quite the transition. We started off with a baby being born. That was great choice, Dustin. Joaquin has a great presence on screen. The facial acting when his phone rings was great. He also portrays an anxiety-ridden man impeccably. A medicine is that dangerous without water. I don't buy it. That may be nitpicky, but oh well, write a bad Apple review. I don't care anymore. It's crazy how casual and insensitive Buddy acts watching a man wanting to leap to his death from the building. What the hell is going on with these people in this world now? But like Mike and others have mentioned, it's touching on, social media and how it's like warped our minds where we just kind of embrace this stuff now. I couldn't imagine living in such a dump of an area that I have to sprint to my building's door so I can lock out the crazy folks. And there's a brown recluse infestation. Christ almighty, my biggest fears in life. This has to be one of the oddest moods of a movie we've ever reviewed, right? This uplifting, harmonious music, news reporters speaking of the naked, circumcised white killer, Beau's odd message he scribbles apologizing and thanking his mom for his dad's death. I don't know what to feel right now. Beau has a whole parade of noise going on, but his alarm is what wakes him up. I know that's a nitpick, but I was like, all right, let's be for real here. After a couple of rewatches, I really wonder if his keys and luggage were stolen or if this is just something going on in his mind to delay him visiting his mother, who he obviously has trauma with. Joaquin with more great facial acting, talking to his mother. I thought the on the phone scene with her was great. Beau, why would you take, like Mike mentioned, why would you take the medicine without already having some water readily available? Your therapist specifically said with water. And I just, I'm done now, but it's an interesting opening, and I'm really curious where the movie goes next.
Mike, just one more thing. Like, you mentioned that he needed to be a man, but like I said, like, I think that goes back to that demasculization that he went through as a kid at his mom's side. And I mean, I know you were touching on the hallucination thing. Just to be clear, I don't think that he hallucinated everything. I think it's a mixture. I think that there's there's absolutely a lot of extreme things going. He's taking things to the extreme, but I do think that he's hallucinating some of it. But I mean, who knows? Honestly,
and I think we're saying the same thing. To be honest, like I think I just don't know if I'd use that word, but I mean, we're really saying the same thing, though. I mean, he's seeing it through his perspective, and he's so, again, afraid that he's blowing it up in his mind. Like, this thing that's happening isn't as big of a deal as it probably is to a normal-ish person, but it's in his mind, it's a big fucking deal. And last thing, the be a man thing is, I wrote it down, but that was before I finished the film. Like, now I understand, very demasculated or emasculated throughout the entire film. So no doubt about that. Plus, his mom sucks. So there you go.
I agree with what you're saying, though, because, like, think about when you hear about, oh, I would walk on the other side of the street if that guy was walking towards me. Like, that's how I view the guy with the tattoos. That guy probably wasn't running towards him. He probably saw him down the street and took off running. In his mind, oh my God, he's after me. So
exactly,
that's how I took it as well.
Also, Beau's mom is hot. Call me sometime. Anyway,
we haven't even seen her yet. Okay. Beau timidly exits the elevator and grabs a thick phone book by his building's front door to hold it open. There's a dude zonked out of his mind hovering around on the outside when Beau nails him with the door when he slams it open. Beau runs into the bodega and chugs some water. His card declines. As the man tries again, Beau sees strangers entering his apartment building across the street. Beau tries to scrounge up some change to pay for the water, and we see dozens of vagrants enter his building. He runs out, and right as he gets to the door, someone pulls the phone book doorstop, and he's locked out. He tries calling his landlord, but no dice. He sees his apartment light come on from the street and looks around for some help. Instead, he stands still until it's dark now. He climbs up some scaffolding outside his apartment and sees a real rager taking place inside. His tattooed nemesis is rifling through his kitchen cabinets. He sits helplessly on the outside and eventually falls asleep. He's awakened by a construction worker using a drill. It's daytime now, and his apartment is empty. The glass front door in his building is shattered, and he walks right through it. Scared to get off the elevator, he scopes the scene first and sees the tattooed bad guy sprawled out on the floor at his doorstep. He cautiously approaches, and we see the man has a nasty gash in his neck, and he's holding Beau's phone with the 9 and 1 dialed, 1 digit short. He almost made it. Beau's home is more wrecked than Jade and Will's, but at least it's empty. He thinks. He runs and closes the front door and starts cleaning. There's a shoe lodged in his computer monitor, but he's determined to rebook his flight. But his card declines yet again. He calls his mom to tell her, but a man answers. It's a UPS driver who tells him the police are on their way. He asks Beau to describe his mom and tells Beau there's a woman on the floor, but no head or face. Beau is confused. The chandelier fell on a woman. The UPS driver doesn't know if it's Beau's mom or not. Maybe Beau dialed the wrong number? He hangs up and calls back. It's the same guy. He tells Beau he's sorry. Beau is in shock. The driver checks the woman's purse for ID and asks Beau if Mona Wasserman is his mom. Beau gasps and drops the phone. He's been standing still long enough that his bathtub is now flooding into the living room. Reminded me of that meme. Blood froze. He hasn't moved in 40 minutes. He finally goes into the bathroom to turn off the water, and the little trinket that he bought for his mom is on the floor by the tub. He decides to take a bath and, pause, my man's nuts are outrageously large. Pause. He's like Randy Marsh when he intentionally got ball cancer to get medical marijuana. His doctor doesn't answer the phone, and while he stares at a picture of his mom, water starts dripping from above. He looks up, and the dripping is sweat from a man who is hanging on for dear life, hovering above the pool of water below him. He's slipping, and Beau is frozen in terror. The dangerous spider from before crawls on the man's face, and he falls on Beau in the tub. The two struggle for a while, and Beau finally runs away in terror, butt-ass naked. We see the naked stab man outside, who has claimed another victim, and Beau runs to a cop for help. The cop pulls his gun and tells Beau to drop his weapon, a.k.a. the gift for his mom. Beau drops it and it breaks. The cop keeps telling him to freeze despite Beau standing still with his hands up and says, "Please don't make me do this." Beau is justifiably scared now and runs away from the cop down the street. Amid the calamity, an RV plows into Beau and sends him flying. Go ahead, guys.
Okay, weirdly, actually, you know what? I don't know why I had to preface that with weirdly, because this whole fucking movie is weird. But this is actually my favorite group of scenes. I say that because at this point, I mean, I'm still very intrigued and interested and on the edge of my seat and trying to figure out what the hell's going on at this point. And there's just so much going on here so quickly. I will preface this by saying I think, because again, all up for interpretation. But here is really where it shows to me the chaos of the real world of Beau, because earlier he just kind of ignored it as normal reality to him when he was walking down the street. But here Phoenix just shows like how petrified he is as he thinks like he has to go get some water or else he's going to die. All because of what the therapist said. And like we were talking about just a second ago, I mean, just those little things that we would blow off, but Beau and his, I mean, I don't know, mental disabilities, I don't know, is obviously taking things to the extreme, like Mike and Mike can be touched on. What I can explain in my head is stuff like the homeless people invading his room because he left the front door open. Like, I think that's probably something he was obviously scared to death of happening, but did this really happen? Because, and this is kind of goes back to, you know, we'll touch on it a little bit later, like when he gets stabbed and crazy shit. Like, I can't explain away some of this stuff in this movie. And that's definitely one of the things with his house being, because it's not in his head completely, because the room is trashed when he gets back in. So who fucking knows? I don't know. And okay, he just found out about his mother. Great acting, by the way. Phoenix and whoever was on the other end of that call. Was that Bill Hader that was on the other end of that call? If so, fucking just fantastic acting. But what's the deal with the guy on the ceiling over his bathtub? I mean, something that, again, that makes no sense to me at all. Like, I guess I, quote, just don't get it. But, you know, back out here in the street with the police officer, like, again, something I feel like that is probably just exaggerated by Beau. In my head, the police officer probably hasn't even really pulled his gun like we were talking about, you know, but Beau is scared to death. But regardless of what I think, though, it's all gone on way too fucking long. Like, sorry, like, this is why I always say that Ari Aster is pretty self-indulgent as hell. Like, we're like 45 minutes and 3 to 4 dick shots into this, and we're on scene 2 in my notes. Like, God almighty.
Ryan, real quick, the way that I took the guy hovering above the bathtub, I just chalked that up to he was probably in there and things got wild, so he was hiding. Didn't realize everyone had cleared out, and so he was just hiding until he could get away. That's, I mean,
so
that's the only way that made sense to me.
Weren't in his head, like that really happened.
Was
At
it
least
real?
it really
I was gonna
happened.
say,
To
was
tear
that
up his
real?
room.
'Cause
So,
I don't
no fucking
had to,
clue.
or who tore up his room? Then I mean, like, it was fucked up.
Like, by the way, that's like a great scene though. Like just straight up, like, it was tense and had a lot of good fear, and it was shot well. But I had no idea if that actually happened or not, which is interesting in and of itself. I will say, my man, through all his brain trauma here, whatever you want to call it, was smart enough to put that wedge in the door. That's a pretty smart plan to get. He didn't need it. He thought he did, but he didn't probably need that. But it was still a smart plan if you're going to need it. This is,
Well, he didn't have his keys to get in.
well,
So,
that's
I mean,
true. That's true. That's a good point. So he technically did need it. Okay. All right. I mentioned the interaction at the convenience store here where he buys the water. And I think that they do a really good job here, like messing with the sound, messing with the music, like making it feel like we're Beau as things really start to go crazy around him. Him paying for this water, again, minor inconvenience, has turned into a scene from Dawn of the Dead. Like, it is crazy to me how it works. And I mentioned the Courage of Calorie Dog analogy. I stand by that, and I have it in my notes here. But it's really, while you're taking notes live, this is the first time I really started to realize, oh, we're not seeing this normal or this regular reality. We're seeing it through how Beau sees it. I will say, there's a shoe in this man's computer screen, and he decides to use that motherfucker anyway. I don't know, that made me laugh. I'm not going to lie. Look, this man on the other end, the UPS driver of the phone, I would have hung up if I were the UPS driver because Beau is asking all the wrong kind of questions. He's slightly being annoying. I know his mom's dying, but I'm just saying, like, the whole phone interaction, I would have hung up with the quickness if I were that UPS driver and gotten the fuck out of there. I didn't see nothing, man. But would have been one hell of a way to find out that your mom died. I mean, that would have been crazy. I just, again, if you're taking it on face value before you know everything, that's a hell of a thing. Like, the last conversation he had with her was not good, and now we see his life fucking sucks, by the way. Clearly, he's, it's not a good time. And then his mom dies, and he finds out over the phone via UPS driver. Then he gets in the bathtub, of all things, which, okay, that's probably not the first thing I'm going to do if I find out my mom died. But hey, he doesn't have a really good grip on reality, so whatever. But we talked about the hovering guy scene over the tub. Have no idea if that happened. I really don't. I don't know how to interpret that. If it did happen, it was kind of funny, not going to lie. If it didn't happen, I think it's some kind of metaphor for something. Maybe he tried to drown himself. Like, I'm not really sure. But to me, it was almost like a vehicle just to get Joaquin Phoenix naked in this film. Because like Brian said, we have to get some kind of dick in every one of these movies from Ari Aster. But anyway, again, this man's life is in the shitter. If I were him, if I were Beau, I don't really know if I'd want to continue. I'd probably find a way out, not going to lie. The tub seems like a good place to try that because not only does his life kind of suck, he lives in a cardboard box basically, and now his mom's dead. Like, I don't know. That seems like a really good way to end things. Last thing, objectively, being run over while you're naked is funny. I'm sorry. It was just fucking hilarious. Y'all know my stance on man ass. Man ass is always funny. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you say it sounds. It's fucking hilarious when a naked man's ass. And then he gets run the fuck over, which I thought was funny. But I will say, in my mind, that interaction with the cop and all that stuff never happened. I think that's all Beau. And the only thing from that scene that was real that is what we see later is him getting stabbed multiple times. I don't think he ever tried to run away or interact with the policeman. I think that was all made up in his head. Again, just that heightened sense of fear or how he's seeing things through his perspective. Sorry for the rant. Go ahead, Nico.
No, I'm glad you guys kind of touched on wondering if things are, that are going on is real too, because I started off my set of notes right here with, I'm getting deep here, but I wonder if all the craziness we see on screen is a metaphor with how anxiety-ridden people feel. None of this is actually going on. It's all in Beau's mind. I was thinking this because this bodega wouldn't last a day in business with all that madness right outside his door. I mean, that place would get robbed every day. The shop owner is definitely tweaking, though, calling the police over some change. And I feel like Beau definitely threw enough money up there to pay for that bottle of water. I mean, I know times are tough, but goddamn, Bubba. The construction worker casually running a drill where a civilian is sleeping on a job site, not an OSHA violation at all. What are you doing, brother? This man likes to work too hard, I think. You're watching a unique movie when a tattooed covered dead man outside your apartment door is like the 14th oddest thing so far. Getting the news of my mother's death is inevitable and truly terrifies me. Joaquin, with more great acting, learning of his mother's horrific death. And I think the choice to just freeze and be unable to speak is a perfect choice for Beau's character. And like Dustin mentioned, pause this, but Beau has a bigger sack than Santa Claus. I don't buy this guy holding himself up by the ceiling above Beau's bathtub. Not to hate or judge on the man, but he doesn't have a great physique. There's no way he has the physical strength to hold himself up there as long as the movie portrayed. And like Brian mentioned, this sloshing around scene, it could have been cut to save time. I don't think it did anything. There's so much to process here. Beau runs into the streets naked. The naked birthday killer has killed a man. The dead corpse who jumped from the building is still there. Beau is hit by an RV. I'm speechless, Dustin. What a set of scenes.
All right. Next thing we know, we hear water sounds and a bathroom scene fades in where we see a woman and a boy. The woman is yelling, but we can't hear anything. Then Beau wakes up in a teenage girl's bedroom. Don't worry, she's not there. He's hooked up to an IV and finds a call button in bed. He presses it, and we hear Grace call out in the hallway. She enters the room to check on Beau, and he feels strange. He's been asleep for 2 days. She also reveals that Beau was stabbed by the naked man. Beau freaks and asks if he's dead. She said no, and he's healing quickly. She tells him their home is his home as long as he needs. Grace's husband, Roger, comes in. He's a surgeon, and he's been taking care of Beau. Beau asks if his mom is really gone or if it was a dream. Grace assures him that it was a dream as Beau sobs. Later at the dinner table, the three are holding hands and staring at a shrine of their son, Nathan, for an extended amount of time. He was killed in action. Roger hands out some pills, which Grace and Beau take, no questions asked. Okay. And Roger tells Beau that his testes are distended and he needs an ultrasound. The chat is interrupted by their daughter Tony coming home. She asks if Beau was enjoying her bed and all her stuff. She says it's not like they have another empty room that's unused, which Grace says, right, it's not like that. Tony grabs some pill bottles and says she's off to school despite it being Saturday. Grace leads Beau outside and tells him how to use the phone. We see Jeeves, who served with Grace's son in the military. Jeeves smashes a window on a trailer, and we hear that he hasn't had his meds yet. Beau makes his phone call, and he calls Dr. Cohen, who's not a doctor, he's an attorney. He confirms the news about Beau's mom. As he's on the phone, Jeeves runs through and then jumps in the pool, and then fades into the bushes. What a wild card that guy is. The attorney tells Beau that the burial has been ridiculously postponed because they're waiting on him, and Jeeves is having quite the episode in the background. Beau tells Grace he has to get home, and Roger gives Jeeves a pill cocktail. Beau is having a meltdown, saying he needs to leave immediately, but Roger and Grace said he can't fly in his condition. Roger says if Beau rests for a couple of days, he'll take Beau home. That doesn't work for Beau, so Grace says they'll take him home tomorrow. Meanwhile, Tony is recording this on her phone. After putting together a Nathan jigsaw puzzle, Beau heads to bed, where he finds some snazzy silk PJs. When Beau heads to the bathroom, he offers to let Tony have her room, and he'll take the couch, which she stiffly declines. When Beau is in bed, we see Tony through the window knock on Jeeves' trailer door and talk to him while looking in Beau's window. The next morning, Tony is flipping her shit because her stuff has been moved, and she suspects Beau has used her toothbrush. Beau and Roger are at the dining room table while Jeeves stares menacingly through the window. Roger says today's the day, but before they can go, Roger gets a phone call. There's been a water skiing accident, and he has to go perform surgery. Roger makes a theatrical showing and then says he doesn't think today will happen. He says he can move his schedule around and take Beau tomorrow, but Beau says it has to be today and pops a stitch in the commotion. Beau says he can take a train, a bus, a cab, but Roger insists that he'll take Beau tomorrow. Grace hands Beau a coffee mug in a very suspicious way, and when she leaves, we see a note on the napkin under the mug. Stop incriminating yourself. Go ahead.
So lots of big names here I recognize. I love Zoe Lister-Jones as young Mona. I think the first time I saw her was on The New Girl, but she's a fantastic actress. And so here we get the first shot of, quote, the dream, which obviously we found out was not later on. But I have to say, it's so well shot. I can't say that enough. And the acting, even from the boy, let me not mess this up, James Shevetskovsky. Anyway, in his debut role, he's fantastic. But then we get introduced to one of my favorite actresses in the world, Amy Ryan as Grace. I'm sorry, that's not Amy Ryan. That's Holly Flax. And how he missed on the opportunity to cast Steve Carell as her husband here. Come on, Ari. No offense to Nathan Lane. He's fantastic. But, man, I would have had a field day saying that this was a continuation of Holly and Michael from The Office. But that's just me. Nathan Lane's great. The entire cast, again, fantastic. That was a little Donald Trumpish, wasn't it? Fantastic. All the people think so. Anyway, a little fun fact here. Phoenix had sharpened pins installed in his bandaged hands to poke him painfully if he used it, as well as paper binding clips clamped to his stomach to help facilitate a realistic limp. Which, again, I beg to ask, am I wrong when I'm saying that some of this stuff is being exaggerated hallucination because he was fucking stabbed by the crazy naked dude, right? So he was real. Is it all real? Is he living in Detroit? Because that's how I pictured Detroit, to be honest. But anyway, no point in trying to figure it out. Trust me. Just take my word for that one. And speaking of trying to figure this stuff out, so Holly Flax and Max from the movie The Producers, or these suburbanites, as I've seen them referred to as online, they're another extreme test from his mother, right? To basically test Beau's resolve, for lack of a better term, to getting to the funeral. That's the way I understood it anyway, which, again, is all fine and dandy until shit like Beau getting attacked by the naked guy and, well, the beginning of the next set of scenes. I don't know. I'm very confused.
Man, so much happens here, and I don't know if any of it's real. And I think, that's intriguing. At least, like we said off the top, I'm so intrigued the entire time. Like, the movie never loses me, even though it's long as fuck. For me, that's pretty. I will give that a thumbs up. That it never loses my interest. I don't ever feel like it's totally dragging, which is good. And this is where, to me, really starts to pick up on turning the volume up on that craziness, for lack of a better term. I know I shouldn't use that. But look, this man hit the jackpot. This man was in a fucking shithole apartment. He got ran over, left for dead, and now he wakes up in a nice, warm bed, beautiful home. It's nice outside. They got a nice shot. This man hit the jackpot with this. I would just shut up and not complain. I know that's not how that's going to, but again, it would be a best day ever feeling to me. But like I said earlier, and I have it here in my notes, I'm starting to question if any of this is real. I do think there's some things, but could it be that this is a hospital or mental institution and he's seeing it this way instead of how it actually is? I think that's one interpretation. I know there's the interpretation I read on earlier that all this is a test from his mom. I'll say that for the end. I feel like that's a really long-winded thing there. But I do feel like there's not everything here is on the up and up.
I mean, isn't that the point, though, of Grace showing the video feed is because his mother's behind all this? Am I right?
Sure. Yeah. So, but I don't, I guess what I'm saying is I feel like he's in some kind of institution that he's interpreting as like a nice house or like a nice, warm, cozy thing. Look no further than the crazy daughter, the veteran who's, by the way, ask Jeeves. I couldn't get over that anyway. But I mean, just to me, they look like co-patients and not actual, like, just people that they know. Like, I feel like it's all, there's a really deep theory there. But again, I don't feel like this is all on the up and up. I feel like we're seeing something that's, a little bit lighter through Beau's perception. But I mean, clearly the whole family's medicated, so something's off. There's clearly something going on there. I'll be honest. I don't care what the daughter says. I'm not giving up that bed. Fuck them kids. I'm sleeping in my warm ass bed. That's your fault for sleeping on the couch. Look. Also, did we not see the Mother Mary or whoever that was supposed to be thing dropped and broken in the last set of scenes? Like, was that not part of the deal? And now it becomes a permanent fixture in the film. Like, that kind of made me raise my eyebrows permanently. Like, okay, there's some things here that aren't legit, which is okay. But
I guess I thought that it was like glued together. Like I didn't thought it was glued back together. Like it looked.
And maybe that's the case, and I just missed it. Yeah, that could be it. Last thing here. These people creep me out so much, I would probably find a way out of there. Like I know he's not in the right frame of mind, but these people are too friendly. They're too nice. They're too comforting. He's got a stab wound he didn't know about. Like, he's there with the doctor that healed him up. Like, I don't know, man. This is giving me some strange vibes. And something I still want to understand is what the fuck this note means. Like, I'm sure there's a way, if I really thought about it, I would bring it back into the ending, but I haven't quite, that's one of those pieces I haven't quite figured out. So I'm legitimately asking, what the fuck does that note mean? Okay, go ahead.
I got you. So in the end, when Beau gets to his mom's house, we see that collage of all the employees. Nathan is, he's pictured. And then in the end, later on, when he's actually on trial, and we're seeing clips from his life being shown at his trial, she's trying to tell him, "Hey, stop making it seem like you don't want to get home. Stop incriminating yourself."
I see. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So his mother is behind the entire thing.
Right.
That's why I don't think he's in an institution or anything. I just kind of thought that maybe these people were just, they took in people.
Well, they all work for her.
Yeah.
I mean, they make that pretty clear that they're all employees of her.
I have a great idea. I think we should all rewatch it again and live tweet it. Who says no?
Yeah, let's do it.
Literally everybody says no. All right, okay.
I'll do it.
I'm with you, brother.
I'll do it. I'll do it
We're
for
in
the
this
entertainment.
together.
Buddy, I will do it so I can stop tweeting about Florida State football. I will tweet about something else. I promise.
Fair enough. Borrowing a line from Brother Mike, Beau's younger mom, call me sometime. Asking the co-host and audience, how would you feel waking up in a girl's bedroom in some stranger's house with medical equipment attached to you? Yeah, I'd feel the same way. Beau is Ari Aster's Chad Meeks, I guess. Man is completely fine after being hit by an RV and multiple stabbings. Get some rest is all he needs. This is unreal. We got to get some realism back in these horror movies, guys. Grace and Roger, they just ooze crazy. And the movie is definitely touching on the overusage and prescribing of medicinal drugs, which I can appreciate, especially over the past few years. Grace and Roger's daughter, Tony, it has to be a nod to Hereditary, which I really appreciate. Shout out to Toni Collette, a true legend. Beau's mother's attorney is an asshole, God almighty. Why are you snapping on someone who lost their mother and told you he was hit in an accident? Good Lord, man. The way Roger says, you need to get some rest, my brother, that had me crying, laughing. I had to pause it. I don't know why that was so funny. Grace putting together a puzzle of her dead soldier's son while 1,000 Miles plays. This shit is so weird to me, but to parents who have lost a child like this, perhaps it's normal. But to this day, I only think of Terry Crews hearing that song. Beau's name is sewn into his pajama pocket. When the hell did they have time to do this, and why is Roger so casual asking about his mother's death?
Exactly.
Nathan Lane is hilarious in the movie. His moans and groans of frustration are great, and his line delivery are perfect for this kooky character. Beau has to be so confused seeing this incriminating note, like y'all mentioned. The movie is weird, but, I'm still intrigued so far.
All right. Beau leaves a voicemail for Dr. Cohen and then uses Tony's laptop. He Googles his mom's death, and we see the UPS driver who found her being interviewed. Beau sees someone at the news report or on the news report that confuses him, and then he projectile vomits all over the laptop, which Tony was understandably upset about. She says she's taking Beau's home. They get in a van with one of Tony's friends, and she forces him to smoke the marijuanas while her friend records on her phone. Tony's a real manipulative bitch. Beau starts panicking and asks if he can die from the drugs, but the girls ignore him. Beau points out that they just drove by Tony's house again in a very well-done drug haze. Like, that is probably the best depiction of what it feels like to be on drugs I've ever seen in movies. Beau's van seat turns into a seat on a cruise ship. We see Beau's mom asking younger him about Martha, and Beau says he loves her and she's his friend. Beau sees another kid. It's a girl getting an ice cream cone. Inside the cabin on the cruise, Beau hears a girl kicking or knocking on doors yelling, "There's a dead man in the pool." Cut to the pool, and we get a shot from under the water with the corpse floating on top, and we hear Beau and Elaine getting to know each other. At dinner, Mona asks Beau about her and continues the interrogation in bed. Back to present day, and Beau is on the couch as Roger and Grace come home. Then back to the past again, and Mona tells Beau she's going to bed, and Beau sneaks out to meet Elaine. She's asking him about desserts, and he has something negative to say about them all. She asks Beau if he's a virgin, and he says he has to. It's dangerous for him. It's genetic. His dad died. She says they're allowed to kiss, but only for the next 10 seconds, and Beau kisses her. As Elaine's mom yells at him, Tony yells at Beau and wakes him up in her bed. Back on the cruise ship now, Elaine bursts into Beau's cabin and tells him she's being taken away. Beau promises to wait for her. Mona yells at Beau while Tony and Jeeves yell at her in present day, and now Jeeves is storming through the house towards Beau, who's on the couch. Jeeves falls, and Roger sticks him with a needle to subdue him. Grace tells Beau not to worry and explains that he's just like this because of the service. The next day, Roger enters the room and says it's grilling time. Grace helps Beau up and sits him on the couch. Grace hands Beau the TV remote and whispers Channel 78 to him. It's live footage of the room Beau is in, except he can fast forward past the present. We see images of what's to come before Tony ushers Beau into Nathan's room with some paint cans. She starts painting all over Nathan's walls and then has a total fucking meltdown. She wants Beau to get fucked up with her. She starts chugging the blue paint. Beau calls for help. Grace bursts in to see Beau holding her and tries to give her CPR, but she gone. Grace calls Beau a demon and grabs a sword off the wall. Beau runs through a glass door and takes off through the woods. Grace yells for Jeeves to rip him apart. Beau runs face first into a tree. Go ahead.
So this entire Beau getting high thing, I mean, obviously, that's just a vehicle to be able to show more of the flashback of the relationship between Beau and his mother and the whole thing on the cruise ship. But you couldn't just have a flashback. What was the point of the getting high scene? Cut that. This movie is too damn long. Anyway, again, Armin Nahapishan, that plays Teen Beau, does another phenomenal acting job. I guess this is the first time that we really get to see how manipulative Mona really is. I mean, if we're going to place a villain in the story, it would have to be Mona, right? I mean, just all throughout, but especially here, like we see her trying to manipulate and again demasculate Beau, like making him scared of the world. Because what we see here on the ship and his interaction with Teen Elaine, sidebar, great actress, but looks nothing like a young Parker Posey. So it was a little jarring. That threw me off a little bit, a little nitpick I have. Anyway, but when he's on the ship with her and interacting and living life, he doesn't see that ship as chaos like he does whatever city he was in, Detroit, as I called it, like earlier in the movie. But here, you can definitely see that progression of her sinking her claws into her son and the manipulation that comes into play. But even that, I think, is subtle and a lot less in your face than it is at the end. But I'm also assuming it's implied that Mona is the one who caused her mom to be removed from the ship. I mean, like kind of since we find out later on that she's employed by her mom, but kind of like we talked about a minute ago, like with Grace and whatever his name is, were they employees before all this stuff happened or after all this stuff? Like, who knows? Like, did she buy them off later? I don't know. Anyway, I almost forgot that we're back at the suburban home. Jeeves, the old army vet, is another anomaly that I don't understand at all. Like, is this happening like Beau is seeing? No idea. And this is what I was talking about last set of scenes. If Mona is the one that set all of this up, or at least paid this family, I'm assuming, and or like we talked about, maybe they're employed with her now. I don't know. Either way, I'm sure they got paid. But if she's the one that set all this stuff up, it's like the dude stabbing him we thought wasn't real. What's the deal with the daughter committing suicide and drinking the paint? Like, was that real? Why does Grace blame Beau if it was real? Because, I mean, she can see all these cameras and see what really happened. So, I don't know. That whole thing confuses me, but we're almost to the halfway point here, guys. The halfway point.
I also don't quite. This is where the lines really start to blur to me, man. Like, really, really start to blur on what am I looking at as far as what's in Beau's head, what's not in Beau's head. And I don't think it's that standard trope either that you get like, oh, it's all a dream. No, it's not a dream, which I can't stand when a cop-out movie does that. But there's just some clearly lapses in and out of reality here. I mean, the man is on drugs for part of this. So, I mean, clearly there's not a good grasp on reality. But I'm just legitimately confused what is happening. He finally sees what we come to find out is Elaine, and he just throws up all over the computer, which I thought was hilarious, to be honest. And again, if I'm in that van and I'm in the normal state of mind, why the fuck do I have to smoke this again? Like, who are these two? I don't know them. To quote Bobby Hill, that's my purse. Yeah, I don't know you. Like, why do I have to smoke this thing? And why is he being recorded the whole time? Obviously, I think we've answered that, but when I'm taking notes, I'm like, why? Like, what are all, there's so many questions and dots that need to be connected still. But, not only is this man out of his mind, he's stuck in the car with two awful fucking people. Nothing good in this whole movie has ever happened to Beau. Like, he gets to what you think is a nice place, and then these people are fucking out of their mind as well. They're terrible humans. The way they're talking about him, just typical, what I would think, teenage bullshit. Again, young Mona, call me sometime. We meet the character of Elaine, which we saw a little bit of a picture of earlier, and that was kind of confusing until this point. But she seems a little off her rocker too. Like, she's waking the whole cruise ship up about this dead guy, and then doesn't actually seem to care that there's a dead guy floating in the pool. Like, there's some screws loose there for her as well. So they do seem like a good match, although she just seems very strong, charismatic, independent, self-reliant. And Beau's like the complete opposite of that, at least when he's with his mom. When he starts to become with Elaine, he talks to her. They have conversations. Brian already pointed all this out. They end up kissing, all this stuff it kind of goes to it. And by the way, Elaine's aggressive as hell. She was trying to make that first move really early on, which I applaud her. Good. Not it. Well, we don't always have to make the first move, ladies. All right, just throwing that out there. Anyway, but anyway, we come back here and we get my man Jeeves trying to murder this man, and this fucker's a bear. He's got goddamn all these different shots in his back, and he's still trying to kill Beau. And again, I don't believe that Tony is their daughter. Like, there's got to be some other connection here, because Brian, you mentioned it. Like, why is she drinking pain again? Where did that come from? Like, all of a sudden she's trying to kill herself. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that's not really linking up, and for me, as far as the plot goes. And then, like you mentioned, they turn on Beau all of a sudden, like it's his fault. Like, you know, like you said, there's cameras there, you can see everything. So I'm really wondering what actually happened that caused Beau to run away and leave. Like, did the daughter drink like alcohol and he viewed it as pain? Like, worse? Like, I'm really, really confused on that particular part of the movie. And maybe there's answers. I don't know. Probably should have looked it up. But to me, the perception of Beau starting at this point, I can't really trust anything that he's seeing.
I took the whole paint thing as she was just crying out for help. Like, that was just her lashing out. Her parents clearly haven't moved on from her brother's death. They still, it seems like, love him more than her. And so it was an attention thing. I don't think she necessarily meant to kill herself, but it was just consequence, you know. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
That's fair point. Fair point.
So that was real. So the guy stabbing him in the street was real. Those kind of anomalies like throw me off.
For as long as this movie is, I really don't have a lot of notes, just because I feel like I'm so invested into what's going on, trying to figure it out. So I don't really have a lot of notes for this set of scenes.
I'm like that in the end, I promise. Yeah. As the movie goes, I'm like, I'm done with taking extraordinary notes here. I just need to focus on what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. But how typical. A doctor says, call me if you need me, but doesn't answer, and their answer machine doesn't work. Typical. We get a nice cameo from Bill Hader as a UPS guy. I wish he would have been in the movie more to some extent. I love Bill Hader. He's hilarious. If I was Tony, I'd be frustrated if a stranger took over my room and then threw up all over my computer. Dude, that was a lot of puke all over that computer, man. You can't just wipe that shit up with a Kleenex. We go from Beau tweaking in the car to young Beau on a cruise. The mother-son dynamic is so odd. And like you mentioned, Mike, Elaine banging on the random people's doors about a dead man in the pool, that was outrageous behavior to me. And they're just fishing this dead guy out with a noose on a stick. Like, what? Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Why are Beau and his mother sleeping in the same bed having this conversation? And why is her voice so sensual? She trying to fuck her son? Like, this is weird.
That thought crossed my mind. I didn't write it down. I'm glad somebody did.
Dude, her voice sounded like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, go watch the movie, guy.
You're the best man. I know you can be. Like,
Yeah, like, I don't want to offend any listeners, but if you go watch the movie, like, she put that romance voice on. It was weird. And why does Jeeves live at Roger and Grace's residence? This man is insane. And why is Grace calling him sweetie, kissing his forehead? The fuck is going on around here? Are Beau and Jeeves some type of metaphor of doctors trapping their patients with medicine, I ask? Tony obviously has some type of drama or guilt over her brother's death. Drinking paint to kill herself is a wild-ass way to commit suicide. Tony's dead body and her eyes were horrific, especially for a parent. Another set of scenes, my brain hurts from what I've seen, but Dustin, I'm still intrigued by God.
Before Beau comes to, we see an attic door being closed. Then Beau gets up and walks further into the woods. It's dark now, and Beau hears a woman singing. He tells her he's lost. She takes a huge shard of glass out of his forehead, and he goes with her. We see some signs on the trees, and it's clear these are some weird cats he stumbled upon. It's hard to describe the vibes, but think medieval fair mixed with Bonnaroo. There's a huge stage in the middle of their camp. They're rehearsing for a play. They call themselves the Orphans of the Forest. They're a traveling theater company. It's time for the show, and Beau is given a costume. We see Jeeves hauling ass running down the street, and we see that he's tracking Beau. Another man in the crowd at the play asks what he's doing there, but gets no answer. The play begins, and it has some really cool stage design. The play is a dramatic one, which has a man bemoaning how he lost everything. Beau is completely into the play, as is the whole audience. As the man in the play breaks his chain, he becomes Beau. Beau is now in the play. And when I say in the play, I mean in it. The stage design is the actual atmosphere now. Beau starts his journey, and the story is being told of him finding his village and building a life. This is one trippy-ass scene. Beau meets a woman, and the story changes depending on who tells it. He kisses her. She's fucking animated. Sometimes she looks like a man. Okay. She becomes pregnant because Beau has sex with her. Funny how that was phrased. I actually laughed. Beau has 3 sons. This scene is a mixture between animation and real and looks like a play come to life. I honestly don't know how to describe it. Beau gets lost in a foreign country in this story, and he looks for his family but never finds them. Beau gets blamed for burning a village down and is thrown in jail. He breaks out of the pokey and continues to search for his family. He collapses when he's old, and he cries. The narrator woman tells him to confess. After he confesses, he sleeps better and has good water to drink. He wakes up in his village. No one recognizes the old man, though, because he's old. But he's home. He goes to a play in an outdoor theater and spends his last dollar on it. Old man Beau walks through the crowd finds a seat, and it looks identical to the stage and crowd that actual Beau is at. On stage, his story is being told to his boys. They share a nice sentimental moment upon reconnecting, and Beau learns the boy's mom is gone. The boys ask about their any other family, and Beau tells them their grandmother is dead, and we see a flashback of Beau's mom telling young Beau how his dad died. He died by finishing in her the first time they ever had sex. It's a heart condition. He died on top of her and inside of her, and that the same would happen to Beau if he ever had sex. Very crazy story to tell your young son. Back to old man Beau, and he said it's why he never had sex. And his son asked him, how did you have us then? And Beau is confused. Go ahead.
Ooh, so am I. So besides the dickapalooza that we get at the end, spoiler alert, this is my least favorite part of the movie here. I mean, this entire Robin Hood People of the Woods thing, it's just so slow and just so goddamn long that like it spans this set of scenes and the next in our notes. That never happens. It's just too good, goddamn long to me. Shout out though to friend of the show, Julian Richards, playing the strange man in the woods. Both thanks to his father. Interview at don'tgooutthere.com. But all right, so I talked about the demasculization of Beau like twice already, I think. But this entire play kind of goes more into that as he loses himself in it and pretty much projects himself into the play, but in a very masculine way. I mean, like he's a fucking wood chopper from way back who builds his own house, finds a wife, has
Damn
kids. Right. I mean, just a very manly fucking life, like he lived in Tennessee. Anyway, that Beau is obviously so handicapped by his mother that he's obviously unable to ever achieve, but wishes that he could have. I mean, I think there's a pretty deep layer here to flush out if you want to, but damn, it drags so much for me personally. And I'm already just 2 hours into this. I'm like fucking drained, to be honest. And I don't mean the podcast. I mean watching this fucking movie, although your boy is pretty tired right now. Now, the visuals, I think, are absolutely phenomenal during all this play stuff. Like David Gauscher was the supervising art director. My man has done X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Day After Tomorrow, Spiderwick Chronicles, just huge movies. And it really shows here. I think it's very visually entertaining. But besides a lot of this play's deeper meanings, I mean, there's just a lot I still don't understand and probably never will understand here. Like Mona knows about him giving the girl the porcelain figure later. So are we supposed to be under the impression that she put all this together too? Because come on, that's a little something I can't make work in my head. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
All right, I promise everyone this is the longest set of notes I have, and then they're pretty short the rest of the way. Like they really are, because like Nico mentioned, like I just kind of got lost in the film because if I didn't pay attention for long enough, I felt like I was going to miss something. So bear with me. I mean, hey, I've been saying how much I love the setting in the woods, so hey, I can't really knock this part here. It does go a little long, but I do like the setting. I think it's pretty cool and it looks good. But again, this is starting to give me some like weird Shutter Island vibes where like, you know, where he finds Rachel Solando down in the cave or whatever. Like, I'm not so sure about this. Like, this isn't on the up and up what I'm seeing here. But what the hell is this? A community theater group in the middle of the fucking woods? Like, what am I watching? This part to me still feels like Beau is on drugs. Like, I don't like there's some, like, to me, this feels like he got knocked out by the branch or the log or the tree and was passed the fuck out, dreamed this whole thing. And then after he got out of the woods, the next thing, all he did was wake up and walk on to the next hitchhiking thing. Like, that's what I think happened. But anyway, I will say, as dumb as this part is, it's pretty fucking cool. You know, Dustin mentioned the animation next to the real life Beau. Like, I thought that was really cool and well done. You know, it looked like there was even a little bit of stop motion or claymation, I should say. Then there's hand drawn animation, and then they insert Beau into this thing. You can't, you know, Dustin did about as good as you can. You can't, like, really reiterate what the narrator said. You just need to go watch that part of the film. Like, it's a really, like, the way they lay out Beau's story, I thought was pretty well done. And although this would be my hell, because I don't really like plays, so to just, like, wake up and you're in the middle of the woods and you find the traveling theater group, like, no thank you on that. But look, it's a depressing story. What happens to Beau, and then you see him as, like, an old man, and he's found his sons, and then you kind of like, wait a minute, how the fuck could he have sons? This man's never fucked anything. And that's what comes to the realization there. I mean, how the fuck could you tell your son that story? Like, no chance in hell. I would make something up that sounded way more extraordinary, way more extravagant. You know, maybe your dad died in Vietnam or some other shit I would have made up. Not nutting on top of me. That's a pretty terrible way to go, man. Well, depending on how you look at it, that could be a good way to go, I guess. Anyway, whoa, it happened in the movie. Come on. All right, gabble me.
All right, now you're saying come on too much. Like, what are you talking about?
This is crazy.
God. All right, that was a little crazy. All right. That was a little crazy. My bad. But could you imagine nutting and then dying? I mean, I feel like there's two ways to look at that. That's either really bad or really good. If, like, the last emotion you feel is, I mean, that's pretty wild. That's you could die worse ways, right? Okay. Anyway,
Mike was like, but for real, could you imagine nutting and then dying? Like, but for real.
Hey, I'm just being honest, everybody. But listen, I will say I'm going to give the movie credit. Some of the shots in this part are really well done. I like the way that Ari Aster uses the camera. I like how whatever they did in post production to make this scene in the woods look really good, I thought was well done. But I have it right here in my notes. It's the last line that says, "Man, what the fuck is all this bullshit?" That's literally a line I have in my notes, and that's how I'm going to end it. Go ahead, Pico.
This has been a great episode. But first, the start of this off, I got to ask.
Leprechaun. Not as good as Leprechaun.
I got to ask, how is Beau not dead? He's hit by an RV, multiple stab wounds, and now 4.40s into a tree with your head. This guy is built different. All right, Beau, and now Beau apologized to his girl in the woods saying, "I'm sorry, I'm lost." And all I could think was, me too, Beau, me too. I'm confused as a motherfucker right now. Really not sure what to say here, but of course there's a huge theater in the middle of the woods with all kinds of odd individuals by Roger and Grace's house because, of course, like Brian mentioned, the animation, green screen narration scene of Beau's life story is entertaining, but it runs on forever, and it just loses me. The woman's voice is very calming, though. I gotta compliment the mask. The mask this woman has on is scary as fuck. Mom telling her young son that dad died instantly the second he nutted her is insane behavior. I don't know what is going on with his mom. Shout out to Alice Babbage, the costume designer. All the people look great, especially the old man version of Beau. That's really all I have. I'm so confused, but fuck it. Let's keep going. Go ahead, Dustin.
This sounds like my prom night.
You said that last week.
No, I cut that out. Back to present day. Real Beau at the play, and Beau feels sick, and the woman that found him in the woods gives him something to drink. To repay the favor, Beau pulls out the trinket he bought for his mom and gives it to her. Then a weird-looking fuck sitting behind Beau is staring at him creepily and asks Beau if he recognizes him. He says, "When you were little," but then changes the subject. He tells Beau his father is alive and that he knows him. He served him food after Beau was born. He notices Beau's ankle monitor and says he was kidding and walks away. Beau asks if he's his father, and the man just keeps walking. The man on stage sees someone approaching and is then shot with an arrow. I think it was an arrow. It looked like an arrow. The strange man tells Beau to run before an explosion kills multiple people. It's Jeeves. He opens fire with an Uzi and takes Beau out. Jeeves is taken down from behind and lands on the gun, still firing, and shoots himself in the collarbone many times. Pretty hilarious scene. Before he dies, he hits an incapacitate button on his cell phone, and Beau's ankle bracelet shocks him and subdues him. We then see young Beau again, getting a bath from his mom, but another kid, who I think is also young Beau, is being told to get in the bath. But he instead asks where his dad is, and he's told he's dead. Young Mona asks the kid in the bath if he wants daddy too, and the camera shakes as if it was in first-person mode, saying no. Mona grabs the kid outside the tub and leads him down the hall and opens the attic door. She tells him to go up, but he says no one's allowed up there. She forces him up and closes the door behind him. The other Beau gets back in the water, and we cut back to real present day. Beau stands up to the sounds of birds chirping, so he was out overnight. He finds a highway and then catches a ride with a stranger. The man takes him home. He finally made it to Wasserton, just over 2 hours into the movie. Beau gets out of the car in his mom's driveway as people are loading up furniture, and he finds out the funeral is over. As he heads inside, we see a statue of a woman holding a child, and it's the exact same design as the trinket he bought for his mom. Inside, a video is playing of the service. This is a bitchin'-ass house, I gotta say. We see the broken chain that held the chandelier that fell, as well as the dent in the floor that it caused when it fell, and we see a corpse in the open casket with no head. That's a choice. Beau heads downstairs as his mom's favorite song plays, and he looks at several pictures of him and his mom on the staircase. We find out that Mona was a hell of a businesswoman, and she built an empire, and we see a shrine to her accomplishments, and we see that Roger and the man with the face tattoos that tormented him earlier were her employees. Beau lays down on a couch and takes a siesta, but is awakened by a woman calling out hello. She thought the funeral was at 8 p.m., and Mona owed her money. Beau doesn't say anything, and she heads outside to call an Uber. Done that a time or two, just ask Nico. Beau follows her and says, Elaine? It's the girl from the cruise ship. She's shocked. She worked for Mona. Beau tells her he waited on her. He waited for her like she wrote on the picture. She says that she wanted him to, and asks if he wants to go inside, and suddenly Beau is courageous. He goes in for the smooch. They go inside, and she immediately asks where the bedroom is. They go to Mona's bedroom, and Elaine starts going through Mona's shit. She tells Beau to go to the bathroom, and when he returns, she'll be ready. He comes back out, and Mona is in her skivvies, and she points out that he's not. He goes back, and then comes back out, and hastily gets under the covers. She's naked now, and kisses Beau. He says he's tense because it's been a while. She plays Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey, and I'll never hear that song the same way again. She gets on top of him and rubbers him up. They bang one out, and during sex, she stops to restart the song. I laughed. Beau busted nut despite his protest, and she remarks how fat the load was. He blasted through the Jimmy. She's determined to get her nut too, and keeps going. But in a hell of a plot twist, instead of Beau dying from sex, like his mom suggested would happen, Elaine croaks on the cock. Beau freaks out and tosses her to the floor. Beau crawls on the floor and cries, and then checks to see if she's still dead. Yep, she is. He cuts off Mariah's song, and then Mona's voice says, please, continue as if I wasn't here. Go ahead.
Ari Aster is a fucking psychopath. I just want to throw that out there. But at least we get some more action in this set of scenes with Jeeves going fucking Rambo on these people at the start. Jeeves' death is my favorite. I'll spoil it here. But, all right, but if he's that mentally like unstable or whatever he is, and being shot with that machine gun over and over again, as Dustin said, but he can take the time to open his phone and disable Beau? Like, this dude has been running through the woods this entire time, and he could have done this all along. Like, what did he even hit him with? Like, that electric shock knocked him out? Like, what is that thing? I don't know. Either way, there are some really good first-person POV shots here with Beau running through the woods again before, like I said, somehow being knocked out by this fucking ankle thing. I don't know. I did laugh my ass off the first time it showed who we thought was Mona in the casket without any fucking cranium. I laughed, and I verbally just said, like, what the fuck? When it showed it. Because like Dustin said, that's a choice. Upon second viewing, I noticed that Tina Lane's mom was in one of the magazines on Mona's wall. So I'm going to assume at this point that she was, that she set up that entire meeting with young Elaine on the boat as well. I don't know. Since Elaine worked for Mona, that we obviously found out here, but then mom says she wasn't sure. I don't really know about that. But that's something that confused me the first time I watched this. I was like, how is Elaine working for Mona? But I don't know. Speaking of Elaine, Parker freaking Posey, who admittedly I had a big crush on during Blade Trinity. And I think after Scream 3, this is, I think, the second movie that we've done with Parker in it. So I don't know. I think so, though. But anyway, like, what the fuck happened to her? Like, how did she die? Like, did Mona kill her somehow? It's confusing. Like, what am I missing here? I watched it twice. I'm not watching that shit again. Someone can explain it to me. I'm assuming that she just by coincidence, like, how did she die? She just by coincidence had a heart attack instead of him, and that's supposed to be irony, I guess. Is that what we're
That's the way
looking
I
at
took
here?
it. It's just a ironic twist.
But it's weird
But
that
not a
she
dick
froze
twist.
in place. Like, she just
Man,
she
it kinda
died
was
during
a
her
dick
organ.
twist.
She twisted her dick. They give the old dick twist. That's what he did. But like,
Well,
it was weird.
just
It
judging
was
by
weird
the sheer mass of his satchel sack size, he probably shot so much in her that it literally froze her. It was running through
mummified
her
her?
veins.
His jizz
It gave her
mummifiers. That's what we're saying here.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
don't clip
She was
that out.
Ari
notified.
Hey,
Aster's
don't clip that out.
She was
Ari
notified.
Aster's a
Absolutely.
fucking crazy.
You never,
he's a fucking
hey
crazy
man,
person.
you ain't never heard that Rick and Mortis dick? Come on, man, come on.
Gus, no.
Rick and Morty's
Go ahead,
dick?
Mike. Rick and Yeah, we're
Scary
getting
Movie
another
2
bad
vibes.
review.
Oh Jesus! All right, we're off the
I don't
fucking
care.
rails.
Fuck you and your bad reviews. How about that?
Oh Jesus Christ! Okay, man. All right, now this is where the movie to me just starts to go completely apeshit, and I have to kind of pay attention. So I don't have a ton here. I will say, sending your son up to the attic makes you an automatic 2023 winner of the Man Fuck Them Kids Award. So congratulations to Mona on this prestigious honor. I will say Mona had a nice house. So I don't know why Beau is living in the shit box he was living in. But hell, man, if you're going to be this much of a pussy, you might as well just stay at your mom's house, man. Like, I don't know. This is a pretty nice crib. I just would have stayed there until she collected that check, man. You know the vibes. I will say I cannot be the only one that laughed at the headless woman in the casket. Sorry. If I am, then fuck me, I guess. But I thought it wasn't funny. But look, Nico touched on it in like the bed scene. This woman was infatuated with Beau. Like, this is some really weird stuff. How many pictures that she had of him and her, I thought was very strange. I will say I do like this kind of reveal here that her mom's company has this many, or has its hands in this many things, paws, where, all the stuff you see on the wall and the ads had Beau in them. Like, clearly the theory out there that Beau was kind of like a test dummy for all these different medications and supplements and stuff that her company was making. I think there's some validity to that. I do. And I think it's pretty clear by all these advertisements and pictures on the wall here. I found it really, really hard to believe. And they explained it away that Elaine worked for Mona. But I found it hard to buy into the fact that Elaine worked for her this whole time and Beau didn't know. Like, to me, there's some like hard things to tie up there, and I may have missed something, so forgive me. But I still like that we get this scene because it's fucking hilarious, and the whole thing is wild. For a minute there, I thought they were going to reveal that Elaine killed Mona. That's kind of the way I thought they were setting that up, but not the case. This man's about to get laid for the first time ever, and we're watching it. You guys mentioned how big his fucking coin purse is. The man has like 10 rolls of quarters in there. So it's going to be, Scary Movie 2 vibes. But Parker Posey, call me sometime, okay? That's all I'm going to say there. But this scene is fucking hilarious, man. The whole thing. Beau's timidness, how long it lasts, like the fact that he busted the condom, like the whole thing is fucking funny. And then on top of it, she dies. which I know that's not supposed to be funny. And I know there's the theory out there that I sent in the text earlier, which I don't believe, but I do like the theory is that Beau actually died and he's seeing it happen to her instead, like in some like alternate thing. Like there is a theory and it made more sense to me reading it out loud. So I'll have you go look that one up for yourself. But last thing I have is shout out to Mariah Carey. I'm so fucking confused, but Always Be My Baby is a fucking banger. So go ahead.
Facts. Like Brian mentioned, that's friend of the show, Julian Richings. You can listen to his full interview at don'tgoouthere.com. Got to shout out the old website. He always makes a movie better. He does a great job being a red herring as a potential father, and he delivers his lines perfectly. But hell, he might actually be the father. Where's Maury at? There's no way Jeeves would have had the ability to deactivate Beau's device while simultaneously shooting himself. I agree 100%, Brian. That shit made no sense. Be for real. Beau's mom is in a bikini giving her son a bath because, of course, this man had a horrific relationship with his mother. All right, Mona, you go, girl. This house is nice. She must have that Mike Settle money. Seeing a headless body in a casket is a huge red flag to me. There's no way this would be an open casket, right? And here's another familiar face, the lovely Parker Posey. One of my favorite parts of that piece of shit movie, Scream 3. Hey. Thinking a funeral starts at 8 p.m. is hilarious, though. All right, Scream fans, be quiet. Don't yell at me. I'm sorry.
Whoa.
Elaine telling Beau everything is the same except your body and face reminds me of that old Larry the Cable Guy joke when he's talking about his girlfriend looking like Shania Twain. If you know, you know. Fellas, if a lady says she's got wine breath, she's ready for coitus. That's all you need to know, my friend. It is cute seeing an old flame reignite. Let's go inside, and where's the bedroom? Elaine is ready to, in capital letters, fuck. Thanks to Beau is afraid I will never hear Always Be My Baby the same ever again. More trauma for Beau, the love of his life, the one he waited on, dying in horrific pose, butt naked on top of him, frozen in a horrific state. This movie is something else. I can't thank Dustin enough for picking it. The tables have turned. Mona is still alive. Holy moly, donut shop. What the hell is going on here? Go ahead, Dustin.
I will say really quick, how do we know Elaine wasn't just trying to get that inheritance money, man? We don't know. Unless she was in on the faking of the death, I guess. That's fair. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. Well, and Beau proved that the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. I mean, his mom wasn't even dead 24 hours. Well, I guess she was dead a few days, but just immediately banging in her bed.
Well, we honestly don't even know if it happened or not. We have no clue.
Brother, that was a wild way to use that phrase.
Mona says it's a miracle since she was just dead a moment ago and tosses Beau his clothes. She gathers the sheets off the bed while Beau sits on the floor, frozen in confusion. She tells a maid and a man to get rid of this and to feed Harry, and they take Elaine's body away. Beau asks his mom if Elaine worked for her, and she said she doubts it. But if he's right, he can tell Elaine she's fired. That's funny. Mona says she watched the whole thing. Beau banged in his deceased mom's bed. He said she knew she wasn't dead. He saw the birthmark. It was Martha's hands in the casket. We see a flashback of a nanny tucking Beau into bed. He asked how he could do that to her. Mona said she volunteered. She said she knows everything. Beau made up lies and schemes throughout the years. In the middle of Mona's rant, Beau heads to the door, and we find out Mona also had mommy issues. She presses play on a remote, and we hear Beau's therapy sessions over the speakers, and Beau's doctor walks into the room. Beau is bewildered. A therapy session plays where Beau describes the dream we saw earlier, where there's two of him. He says he wants the truth. He knows his father is alive and that he met him in the woods. Mona says to follow her. She leads him to the attic. Beau is scared shitless. He heads up the ladder into the dark attic. Mona says that wasn't a dream. It was a memory. I think she called him an idiot. That was funny. I don't know. Parents calling their kids idiots sometimes when they are idiots is funny. He lights a flashlight and scans the room to find the single most absurd thing we've ever seen on this podcast. Not only did he see a version of himself chained up in the corner, but also a giant cock monster in the attic. At first, I thought it was Jason Love, but this one was a white. It's Beau's dad. Literally an 8-foot-tall penis with giant balls, eyes, a mouth, and arms like a grasshopper or some shit. During the calamity, Jeeves crashes through the window and throws a knife at Beau, hitting him with the handle in the forehead. That also made me laugh. He charges the cock and starts stabbing the left testy before being stabbed through the top of the skull by the dong's arm. Beau shrieks in terror and crawls towards the door before falling down the ladder. Go ahead.
Giant cock monster is something I've never been called. Sorry, go ahead.
I believe that, Mike. I just want to kind of like let
I've been
this.
called sad and disappointing before, but not giant cock monster.
We're speaking all kinds of truths today. I just want to like let Dustin scene by scene kind of just sit for a minute. Like, yeah, you did hear that correctly.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So, at the very start of this, Mona has definitely lost it at this point. I mean, you can really tell here that she at least shows that she believes that Beau is her property and that she hates him, really. And look, like, just my opinion. No offense to Patty LuPone, who plays older Mona, but I'm not going to lie. I missed Zoe Lister-Jones and her performance, and I think that you could have just given her older makeup. Just my opinion. Anyway, so my thought process here as I was watching this the first time, hearing all of it come together for the most part from Mona, I was like, oh shit, okay, he had a twin brother. Okay, this is making at least some sense now. After I quickly think, how the fuck did he survive this long in the attic? But you know what? This movie to this point's been so fucking bizarre. I'm willing to forgive that. I don't, whatever. He's survived in the attic. And Joaquin Phoenix has survived being killed 50,000 times, like Nico mentioned. But at least we're making a little bit of sense, right? Right? But then we get a giant dick. A giant dick. It's somehow like acting like a human, like Beau's father. I mean, Ari Aster, like what the fuck? What the fuck, man? Now, at this point with this movie, I'm just absolutely defeated. Like, I've given up. You could even question, like, is this whole thing symbolism anyway, with the house and the attic representing his own mind, I read somewhere, or is this just some crazy shit where we're in a world where there's literally a giant dick in the attic now? It does make a lot of sense if you think about it, because Mona is a fucking gigantic cunt. So there we go. That all makes sense. Oh, but that's not enough. No, that's not enough. Jeeves is back, and we get to see him shoot the giant dick and repeatedly stab this giant dick before being stabbed through a head, Starship Trooper style, by the dick hands. The dick has hands now. So just someone else go, Mike. Just fuck.
Buddy, your guess is as good as mine. This is where the notes really start to fall off, because what the fuck is happening here, man? like, obviously, Dustin spoiled this for me because I don't care about spoilers. So I had him send me what he was really wanting us to fucking see out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I knew this was coming, but I had no idea when. And so I'm like, well, we've already seen somebody. Come on, that's a reach. That's Michael Jordan's Space Jam reach, pal. Fuck you. Anyway, oh, damn it. We already saw someone die during sex. Like, just the whole weird thing is, there's so much weird shit has already happened. And then, I mean, I don't really know what's going on. Mona's alive. Like, she faked her death, which, by the way, maybe the reason Dustin really likes this movie is because this is some wrestling storyline shit. Like, sometimes you got to fake your death and come back to screen, pal, if you know what I mean. So, like, this is written that way, and you find out how much of a bitch Mona is, how manipulative and controlling, and all this has gone down. And so more things in the movie start to make sense. Like Beau's personality starts to make sense here more. He's clearly dealing with grief and trauma and all this other stuff. And look, we find out the attic stuff was not a twin. It wasn't a dream. It was a real thing that happened to him. And he sees this amalgamation of his old self up there in the attic, which I thought was pretty creepy and well done. Then once we were up in the attic, I was like, this is where the giant dick comes in, isn't it? Because I've only got the picture to go off of. I'm like, this got to be where the fucking cock comes in. Ayo. What? Anyway, and then it does. And I'm sorry, it's so much fucking funnier on video than it is in the picture. It's something, man. It is incredibly hilarious. Especially when, like you guys mentioned, I think it's supposed to be his dad. Question mark. He kind of like talks to it the same way that Beau talked to his kids, quote unquote, in the woods. Like, that's the same kind of vernacular and tone that was used, which was just out of this world insane. And I know there's some theories that go with this being kind of like a deep, dark thing. I don't really want to touch on those. But, in his own mind, I'm pretty sure that's what the attic is supposed to interpret. But anyway, just look, it's really hard to take it seriously when there's a giant dick monster on the screen. Like, I can't get wrapped up too deep in the weeds because there's a giant cock monster with a mouth on it. So anyway, look, just a whole lot of craziness, absurdity. Go ahead, Nico. Just insane shit on our screen, man.
Yeah, if y'all tuned in for like a really deep intellectual talk, this ain't the episode for y'all. This has been wild. Mona removing the bed linens right after Beau and Elaine just clapped cheeks is disgusting as hell. And Elaine's body frozen in the riding pose has me crying laughing while being stunned at the same time. More shitty mothering, not telling Beau the love of his life worked for her. And I'm going to disagree slightly, Brian. And not that I wouldn't like seeing younger Mona, but I thought Patti LuPone did fantastic delivering her lines. I thought she gave a great performance. It's disgusting seeing the therapist was in on it all along as well. You're supposed to be able to confide in your therapist. I didn't like that at all. But it fit the movie. And like everyone's mentioned, Dustin warned me of this, the scene in the attic. Seeing his father as a giant dick monster with praying mantis arms, I'm speechless. I know there's a metaphor of something deeper here, but what a shocking visualization. I really do think it's possibly like Beau's dad was, maybe like a one-night stand, or just a father who walked out. Who knows? But what a scene to portray that. It's just, I don't know. And Jeeves, didn't he die earlier in the Force? What's going on? I'm really watching an Army vet with PTSD stab a giant nutsack repeatedly. My jaw is on the floor.
Dude, I completely forgot that Jeeves died. I even picked his death as my favorite fucking death, and I just completely forgot because I was so blown away, pun intended, by this dick in the attic.
Hey, yo.
So you just reminded me that I even died last scene. God damn.
And
see, what I'm thinking is maybe remember when Jeeves stuns him or whatever and he passes out. Maybe all that shit that happened after he ran into the tree, that was all a dream. And when he wakes up again, that was all a dream.
And because when Jeeves runs into the attic, first of all, how did he get into the window of an attic? He busted through it. And then also he wasn't covered in blood, he just shot himself 942 times in the collarbone. I don't know. All right, guys, this is the finale. You ready? I know you're excited.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Beau's doctor drags his body into another room where Mona tells him that was his father. Beau pleads with her and apologizes. She says, "Oh, so now you need me, bitch?" And says she gave him everything, and his promises haven't meant shit. She rips him a new asshole, and he takes it in silence. He can't dispute any of it, but then he snaps and grabs her by the throat and starts choking her out. He snaps out of it and is in shock at what he did. She gasps and falls through a glass coffee table. Been there. Granted, I was hammered, though. Beau wanders off outside, and I got to question the doctor here. He just let Beau do that to Mona and then just walk off. Beau walks to the water and gets in a little John boat. He rides off in the moonlight, and some ominous music lets us know we're not done yet. He rides into a cave. Deep into the cave, he sees the sky again before his boat gets stuck and lights come on to reveal he's surrounded by stadium seating. A large screen lowers from the ceiling and loudspeakers says Beau's name and birth date. His mom's attorney, Dr. Cohen, says we're here to assess Beau's guilt. The big screen plays clips of Beau's life, and I gotta say, the way it's being presented, Beau looks guilty of being a very shitty, selfish person. Another voice objects on Beau's behalf, but he's hardly audible, unlike Dr. Cohen, whose voice is amplified greatly. Multiple instances of Beau ignoring his conscience and being a selfish dick who mistreated his mother are pointed out, and then Beau's defense attorney is hurled off his perch and splatters on some rocks below. Dr. Cohen points out how Roger offered to take Beau home that night, but Beau said the next morning was fine, and how Beau gave his mother's trinket to the knocked-up gypsy woman. Mona was gripping the guardrail so tightly that it fell off into the water, causing everyone to go silent. Beau's boat motor catches fire, and he pleads for help. The boat violently capsizes, and Beau goes underwater, never to be seen again. The film closes with a shot of the boat in the water, and Mona crying out for her baby as the crowd exits the aisles. No score. It's very unsettling, but even more confusing. Go ahead.
Unsettling. That's not the word I would use. Look, thank God this movie is ending because truthfully at this point I'm just exhausted. Like watching this movie in real time and doing this episode right here, I'm exhausted. So at the start of this, we get to see Beau finally get out from underneath everything that's been holding him down, and he's able to have that masculinity and that woodchopper from way back mentality and just choke the shit out of his mom. When he finally becomes a man in a sense, that should be the end of this movie. Like at 2 hours and 40 minutes right there, it's still way too damn long, but my freaking Lord. This goddamn court in his own head where I mean, I see this as an extension of the guilt he feels, obviously. Like, it's so goddamn meaningless and boring. Look, I don't need to see him sink back into the guilt and the depression of his own head. Like, he became a man and killed his mom, which was weird to say out loud, by the way. But fuck you. There was a giant dick in the last set of scenes. What do you want?
Yeah, sometimes you gotta kill your mom, you know? That's what it is.
This movie is fucked up enough. Like, that's just my opinion. I hated this ending. One is to assume he died from his guilt. I don't know. I have no idea. Listen, when it stayed focused on the goddamn turned over boat for like an eternity, and then we get written and directed by Ari Aster, I verbally said, "Oh, fuck you, man." That's what I said. I said, "God, fuck you, Ari Aster."
I will say, I completely agree with everything you just said. We get this moment where she's berating him again, not really taking responsibility for the fact that he turned out the way, that he did. She wants him to be, perfect in her eyes and all this other stuff. Not owning the fact that Beau is the way he is because of her. And finally, this man gets some backbone, some spine, some chutzpah, some fucking manliness, and chokes the shit out of her. As terrible as that sounds out loud, out of context, like I think everybody that's seen the film knows what I'm saying. And I'm not even sure that she died from the choke. I think she died from shock. Just like, oh wow, he actually made a decision on his own. He actually stood up for himself. Like I think she was completely shocked, and then falls to a glass table, which also, Dustin, I have been there as well, to the shock of no one, I'm sure. I actually did once through a glass door as well, but that's a different story. So anyway, but no, I mean, I thought that was really well done and would have made a perfect ending. Even if he snapped back into being, kind of sniveling and nervous all the time, I felt like that still would have been a really good way to end it. Even if you did the typical Ari Aster staring off into the distance BS. This whole court thing on a boat, like, it felt like he was in the Colosseum in ancient Rome or something. Like, just a really weird setting. I wasn't a fan of it. I know that was kind of the point of the film, and this is the way that we're supposed to end it, like Beau is on trial. I just didn't like that call. Like, creatively, not for me, doesn't really hold up. And I'm with Brian. I was pissed at the fact that we focused on this boat thinking something else was going to happen. And then up pops directed by Ari Aster. I was fucking pissed, man. So I didn't like the ending. Now, I liked what happened with Beau in that moment, but I didn't like anything else.
All right. My first thoughts was there's no way in hell Jeremy, the therapist, has the strength that drags Beau's big ass with one arm. Patty delivers these lines masterfully, but what did Beau do wrong? Ari Aster, he has mommy issues. I can't be convinced otherwise after seeing Hereditary and this. I can't even be mad Beau killed his mother. She's been terrible since his birth. The court scene is interesting. I'm guessing it's symbolizing the court of public perception. Richard Kind does great delivering Mona's case, but I agree with Brian. This drags on way too long. But I thought this IMDb trivia, it stuck out to me. And, Mike mentioned it earlier about water. But water runs as a theme throughout. He nearly drowns in his bathtub. He's urged to take his pills, always with water. His quest for water locks him out of his building that has the water shut off. He dreams of losing his family in a great flood. He has a recurring nightmare of a bath. His nightlights are fishes. There's a dead guy in the pool. And both Beau's birth and his death are in water. Finally, his last name is Wasserman, literally translates to waterman. And his mother lives in a town called Wasserton. And I wanted to add that Roger's patient cracking his head open water skiing and Grace telling Beau to drink plenty of water and stay hydrated. So, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, water does play a big, big role in this movie. What? I don't know, but yeah, big role. There's no way to describe this movie. I think I have an idea, but do I really? I'm still questioning myself. There's no film like this. That's all I got, Dustin.
All right.
We'll jump into our social media comments and questions. I'll do Instagram real quick. Mike, if you got Facebook pulled up, I don't think we got anything on the old Twitters. The only comment we have on Instagram is from DM Frank, and he said, I'd like to say from the bottom of me heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants, Conor McGregor, and me after picking this.
You damn right.
Thanks, brother.
Is that
brother.
Dustin's burner account?
No, that's my actual account.
Facebook.
This is where we did the budget.
1 second. Sorry. Motherfucker. I have the budget. What? Man forgets twice in fucking 5 years, and it's still a joke. I hate this. I fucking hate this town. Anyway.
Brother, you forgot twice in one episode.
Yeah, that's true. Those are the only times, asshole.
I'm just joking.
I don't even know. Dude, I don't even remember. Fuck. Who knows?
Facebook.
Okay. So we're going to go over to Facebook here. You know, the Facebook. Only one comment on Facebook here that I'm seeing, and it's from one of our bigger fans, Michelle Mirza. She says, I saw this in the theater earlier this year. All I can say is, Dustin must really want to make the rest of you suffer. I'm so sorry.
I do, actually. It's like my purpose in life.
I don't feel any sympathy for the last few weeks. I can tell you that.
All right, guys. Brian, Dustin, if y'all have any fun facts, I've already said the couple I had in the review.
Ari Aster said that with this movie, he wanted to put the audience in the experience of being a loser. My words. What? Like, I guess that's not quite the character I think of when I think of loser in my head. It's not Beau, but whatever. With a runtime of 2 hours and 59 minutes, Beau is Afraid is A24's lengthiest production, with the theatrical cut being 8 minutes longer than the director's cut of Ari Aster's previous movie, Midsommar. Get the fuck over yourself, Ari Aster. You know what? As they say in Gone in 60 Seconds, self-indulgent wiener. That's how I think of it. I don't think that this is a spoiler because we haven't gotten to the actual number, but the Wrap reported that A24 lost $35 million from this movie. Good. Go ahead.
Man said
right.
Good.
Well, it made some of it back when you purchased it. I'm glad you did that. You support
God damn it, you're right.
If you got hate in your heart, let it out.
All right. I got just a few here. Joaquin Phoenix was in Signs with Mel Gibson, who was in Daddy's Home 2 with John Cena, who was an extra in the severely underrated movie Ready to Rumble starring David Arquette. So outside the obvious connection with Parker Posey being in Scream 3, there you go. Haven't done that in a while. On April 1st, 2023, Ari Aster and A24 pulled what was characterized as an April Fool's Day prank on a movie audience in New York's Alamo Drafthouse. The guests thought they had purchased tickets for a special showing of the director's cut of Aster's 2019 film Midsommar. Aster instead screened an unannounced preview of Beau is Afraid about a month before its actual opening date. Now, I know Brian would have never bought tickets to go see Midsommar director's cut, but I wish that he had been in this audience, and he was just like, they sprung this on him, didn't tell him what it was, didn't tell him what it was about, and he just watched
I'd
it.
be pissed. I can say, I'd be
You know how
pissed. I can
mad
tell you that
I
much
would have
right
been?
now. I'd be fucking pissed.
Would be so mad.
Last one I've got is in an advanced behind-the-scenes featurette uploaded by A24. Ari Aster described Beau is Afraid, the plot as being a, quote, Jewish Lord of the Rings, but he's just going to his mom's house. I thought that was funny.
No.
I've never seen any of those movies.
That's very surprising. I saw a lot of people online talking about the theme of this movie is just a Jewish mom's guilt trip. And so that's the overlying theme. And I can't speak to the Jewish nature of it, but yeah, I definitely get the guilt trip aspect and how everything is amplified because of that.
Sure.
That's what Nathan Lane said about it in an interview on Jimmy Fallon, I think.
Yeah, I saw that. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned it losing $35 million, which I couldn't find anywhere. I'm sure that you're right. But the budget itself according to what I found, and I have multiple sources now because I thought I was wrong before we did the show, was $35 million and made $9.4 million in earnings. So I guess maybe if you include like marketing and all this other stuff, it probably lost around $35 million because it's pretty close right there as far as the number goes. So, yeah, didn't make a whole lot of money, man. And that's a shame because I never want a movie to fail. But you're asking for a 3-hour, drug acid trip. And to be fair to Ari Aster and A24, it wasn't playing in a lot of cities. It was playing in pretty select places, according to IMDb. So I think that probably had a little bit of an effect on things.
Well, since I had Regal Unlimited, I would just go and pre-select my tickets online earlier in the day while I was at work and then go to the movies after work. I had to do this on like 3 times. Like I tried to go see it 2 other times and didn't make it or decided not to. And then the 3rd time. So I hope he got money for each time. I didn't have to pay for it each time because it was in my monthly subscription cost. But I hope he got 3 times the money for me seeing it once. He deserved it.
I was about to say that's very rich of you to pay for a movie.
Yeah, hell no.
It's like $30 to go see a movie now. Anyway.
All right, guys, into our favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. I'll just go first. Favorite kill, I chose Jeeves. I mean, how could I not pick someone getting killed by a giant dick praying mantis arm? We'll never see that kind of kill again. Least favorite kill, there's a lot you could pick, but I chose the guy leaping to his death we see that's just off screen in the middle of the road. I'm counting that one. All right, rating. I like Ari Aster as a filmmaker. He's out there. He's different. I like him and Robert Eggers, and I know that makes Brian sick to his gut because he's going to be watching The Lighthouse in a couple months, and he's going to love it. Anywho, I hope they keep making unique movies. I mean, I'm with you, Brian. Like, if they wanted to make a new Halloween movie or Friday the 13th, I'm going to go see it every year just because I like those movies. But I do want some originality. I like seeing, some stuff that makes me think, makes me feel, something. Because like I mentioned in The Human Centipede, a horror movie is supposed to make you feel something. It's supposed to put you in a different kind of mood. And I like that. I gave the movie a 7.
Whoa.
I can't go to any higher than that just because it's 3 hours long. There's way too much to process, and it's just not an easy watch. And like Brian mentioned, the animation scene just drags on. The court scene drags on. So, yeah, I give it a 7 just because I think it's really well shot. It's really well acted, and it does make me feel some type of way. And I like Ari Aster.
All right, I'll go ahead and go next. It's weird. Oh, sorry, the kills. I don't know, man. I don't know which kills to pick. I picked Jeeves as well because Death by Dick is hilarious, which could be the same thing could be said for Elaine. Death by Dick is hilarious. I don't know, one of those. Least favorite kill, I went with a tattooed guy because he scared Beau shitless, but apparently he went out like a hoe. Like he's just laid out while he's trying to dial 911. That's not very scary of him. All right, my general thoughts and the rating, it's weird. That's an understatement. All the bizarre things that happen to him and the over-exaggerated imagery, I take it as his anxiety causing hallucinations or, him amplifying things beyond what they actually are. I definitely get the metaphors used for this guilt trip from his mom and of his dad just being a big dick who's basically a sperm donor and nothing else, not involved in the kid's life. But I don't know why it was literally a big dick. The movie is well shot and well acted, but it's just so damn confusing and went way too long. And the ending, what was that about? Was that another metaphor / hallucination, or did he really die in a capsized boat? I honestly don't know. All I'm for sure about this movie is that I'll never hear Always Be My Baby the Same Again, like we've said. The next time I see it, if that day ever comes, I definitely want to watch this movie while I'm tripping acid because I think it might actually make more sense. I don't know. I gave the movie a 5. Middle of the road because it's good, but is it good? I don't know.
Middle of the road, Mike.
Hey, speaking of, all right, my favorite kill was also Jeeves. My least favorite kill, I don't really know. I guess I'll go with the tattooed guy because I really didn't think any of them were like good or bad or whatever. But like you mentioned, there are technically 2 Death by Dicks in this movie, which is hilarious. Anyway, look, I said it at the top. What a weird fucking film. We've never covered anything like it, not even close. This is my least favorite of the Ari Aster movies that we've covered for sure, but I still think it's objectively good. It's just very confusing, very long. There's a little too much subtext, a little too many hidden things. Like, I feel like this movie is a try-hard, in my opinion. I feel like it's weird for weird's sake instead of being weird to make sense. Like, I feel like, sure, somewhere along the way, maybe there was a draft of this movie that was a little more tame, and he felt like he had to up the ante because Midsommar wasn't weird enough, which is not true. It's a very strange film. Hereditary's a strange film in certain parts, and I feel like he had to maybe top himself or something, and I just don't like that methodology. Just go in and write a really good film. So this one's up for interpretation, and I know there's a lot of themes of guilt and depression and trauma and fear and all that stuff, and I do think it does a decent job of touching on that stuff, but we just go way too far into the weeds, way too much stuff. So, again, well acted, well shot, well made, all the usual stuff for May 24, but I do think this movie takes that ante a little too far and just confuses the piss out of people just because they can. So, all that being said, I had the exact same score as Dustin. I gave it a 5.
Let me show you my shocked face.
I know.
So my
Sorry.
favorite kill was Jeeves, but it was more of the machine gun kill. Like I told Nico earlier, I completely forgot he got stabbed in the head by a giant dick. Honorable mention, though, Julian Richings with the grenade. Loved it. It was unexpected. Least favorite kill, the maid. We just saw her without her head. And that was it.
It's a good choice.
Add this to the list of movies that I, quote, just don't get. Also, add this one to the list of Ari Aster movies that I'm never going to watch again. That count as at 3, by the way. But anyway, maybe I'm just a simpleton that likes closure in my movies, likes them to make sense, and doesn't want to go out and have to do fucking hours of research just for an opinion on what it's about, and still never get closure. I have no idea why this cast made this movie. I have no idea why people pretend to know what it's about. Like I said, I personally believe it's about seeing the world from the point of view of a schizophrenic, but I don't know if that's right at all. And I'd like to normalize that because I think it's hilarious people talk online with such conviction about what they've convinced themselves this is correct. And you're wrong. Whatever. I'm convinced the term elevated horror is a crock of shit, and it's for people like that. I don't believe that there is a real way to see this. I believe that there's just an absurd amount of shit just made for you to question. I hate this movie. I hate that I wasted 6 hours of my life watching this movie. But I can't grade it lower than Terrifier 2 because it did keep me exponentially locked in and at least curious the first time I watched it. I kept going back to no way Phoenix does a movie that doesn't have a point. And that's pretty much a lot like me saying no way the committee would ever leave a 13-0 Florida State out. I was left pissed off and wrong at both. I'm going to give it a 2 for the acting, the way it was shot, and the soundtrack from Bobby Kurlick. I could easily give this a 0 for enjoyment, but it was better than Rubber. And like I said, it did have me in its grasp, for lack of a better term, the first time I watched it. I do think Ari Aster just robbed A24, and they're stupid enough to have let him. So there you go.
Congrats to the longest episode we've done in about 2 years. Way to go, everyone.
Yeah, it really is.
That was longer than most Halloween reviews.
That was a long one. Pause. Gives it a composite score of 4.75. IMDb has it more in line with Nico, 6.8 with 48,000 votes.
What the fuck, Buffalo Bill?
Hey, we know what's up.
Jesus. It's fine.
We got anti-Terra over here, Mr. Brian Hathaway. That man hates some elevated horror. Jesus. Man let the chopper sing on it, didn't he? He's like, fuck you. I will say on a serious note, though, that Ari Aster in an interview said that this movie, he relates to Beau a lot. And I meant to say at the beginning, I don't have anxiety or anything like that, so I probably can't relate to the character that well. But I did enjoy, the movie, it's weird, but it's really well made and acted, so I can appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Let me shout out our blood donors. And then I'll announce our pick for next week, which is going to be a blood donor review. Shout out to Rochelle. Appreciate you. Blood donors. Michael Evans is a new Final Guide donor. Rochelle McLaughlin, she is a legendary donor. Really appreciate you. We're going to be doing your review next week. Fraser Rice, new Dream Warrior donor. Camper Level Reoccurring. Clayton J. Nina, Michelle Mirza, the Horror Movie Crew podcast. Alex Seligson. Eric Doolittle, Sean Irwin, Kelsey Miller, my boy CJ, Christopher James, Michael Evans, Camp Council Reoccurring, Edwin Hernandez-Gunn, Joe Swinford, Kylie Denise, all the way from Australia, Adrian Aiello, Karen, Brian Samick, Andrew Ferguson, Matt Strickland, and Brooke Maley. Like I've said many, many times, the economy stinks right now. So we really appreciate any kind of financial donations you make. It really takes a big burden off of us to, like, it ain't free to make a good sounding podcast. Like, you gotta pay for some decent equipment, where you host the files at, make the YouTube videos, etc. It's not free. We really appreciate your financial donations. Rochelle, her pick is The Sadness. I have not seen this movie, but it's one I've been wanting to see, and I'm excited to watch it. Y'all got any final thoughts on Beau is Afraid before we get out of here? Dustin, did your month accomplish what you wanted?
So much more. Actually, I'm mad. Fuck this month. Never let me pick another theme because I had to watch Human Centipede.
You're welcome.
And Terrifier 2.
And
You're
Terrifier.
welcome.
I'd watch Terrifier 2 on loop before I ever watched Human Centipede again.
What a month.
You're welcome. Congratulations. You played yourself. Thank you to all the fans and listeners. We really appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Twist the giant dick.
Just want to remind everybody,